And Jamal looks at me and says, "Doc, I heard that the BMI doesn't apply to us black folks. My family is big boned. We are all big boned people, so the BMI doesn't apply to us." And my jaw dropped. The BMI does not lie. It just has to be interpreted like everything else in life. Welcome to your daily health briefing. I'm Dr. Albert Tackett. This show is here to help you navigate the complex U.S. medical system, one step at a time. Whether you are decoding a new diagnosis, fighting for a referral, or just trying to stay informed, you are in the right place. Let's get into the science. Jamal, one of my patients, comes to see me for his annual physical. Now, Jamal has gained 14 pounds since the last time he was in the office. So as we go through his vitals, I point out that, hey, Jamal, you've been having a lot of fun. Your body mass index went from 32 to 34. And Jamal looks at me and says, "Doc, I heard that the BMI doesn't apply to us black folks. My family is big boned. We are all big boned people, so the BMI doesn't apply to us." And my jaw dropped. But I didn't say anything. I had to walk Jamal through the data and why the BMI is important. But I understand why Jamal is confused. Jamal is just a victim of propaganda on the internet about the BMI and misunderstanding. So today I want us to clarify what the BMI actually is. Does it apply to black people or all other ethnicities? And how do we use it accurately to make sure that we still obtain the benefits of health without discarding it? As always, you do not want to throw the baby with the bath water. So what is the BMI? Let's get into the science. The body mass index, also known as BMI, is simply a ratio of your height to your weight, right? It doesn't involve anything else. It is a mathematical ratio of the height, your height, to the square root of your weight. And because this is a ratio, it doesn't really tell you anything about body composition. It doesn't tell you how much of your weight is muscle. It doesn't say how much of it is fat. And it doesn't tell you anything about fat distribution. And this is where a lot of people get confused, because there is data that also shows that there are different health risks with respect to different races. For instance, it is well-known fact that black folks at a certain BMI have more muscle mass than other races. Blacks more than whites, and whites more than Asians. And so at the same BMI, some ethnicities have more fat. Now, this is what happens when you get into the weeds of science. But overall, the body mass index usually actually reflects what is happening in the body, right? Let me give you an example. I am a regular guy living my life. You take one look at me, you can have a good estimation of my BMI. If I tell you that my BMI is 40, but all of that is muscle, you are going to look at me and say, I don't know about that, doc. I do not know about that. But if you saw Lawrence Taylor, Hall of Fame NFL defensive end, probably the greatest at his position, his BMI is 30, but I know that's not a reflection of fat. That is all muscle. And therein lies the truth, because the BMI does not lie. It just has to be interpreted like everything else in life, right? It's just like blood pressure. A blood pressure of 140/80 in an 85-year-old man is interpreted differently from the same blood pressure in a 25-year-old. Those are different set of facts. So it requires clinical interpretation. And that's where the BMI also causes problems to many people. Now, another scientific fact you need to know is that many people claim that the BMI does not apply to black folks, but they forget that we have clinical evidence showing that black folks at the same BMI have a higher rate of high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity than other ethnicities. And so This fascination with BMI not being applicable to black folks is actually causing problems. And let me tell you why. It is making people ignore health risks associated with BMI. It's making people ignore fatty liver disease, which is primarily associated with BMI. It is making people ignore cardiovascular disease, sleep apnea, hypertension, diabetes. All these conditions increase with increasing BMI. That is scientific fact. It is not open for debate. And so when we look at the BMI and people get into all these raging debates about whether it applies to black folks or not, it reminds you of the guy who got so close to the tree that he lost sight of the forest. The BMI is an important risk factor tool because the higher it gets, the worse the risk for the person whose BMI is increasing, regardless of their race or ethnicity. Okay? Now, I know you are thinking to yourself, all right, Dr. T, I heard it. But what does that have to do with me? So what if the BMI doesn't apply to black folks? I am just sitting here living my life. The reason why this applies to you and it's important is because if we discard the BMI as an important clinical tool, we are playing straight into the hands of insurance companies. Remember, health insurance companies take your money to provide you health care, but they don't want to pay for everything. And the BMI is a tool that we doctors have used clinically to define who needs coverage for certain medications, right? We use that for coverage of Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Wegovy, depending on whether someone has diabetes or just obesity or diabetes plus obesity or has obesity, diabetes, and sleep apnea. There is a whole array of conditions that require a BMI for adequate interpretation, adequate prescription, and adequate insurance coverage. So it drives me crazy when even some physicians fall into this and play straight into the hands of insurance companies by minimizing the impact and the importance of a BMI. This is where you need a good doctor. This is where you need to find a good primary care physician wherever you live. You need a good doctor who is your ally in navigating this system. Because truth be told, as I said earlier, I always tell my patients, if I can pinch a mass of fat on my belly, I don't care what anybody says about my BMI or me being black. If I can pinch that fat, my BMI is not where it's supposed to be. Okay? That is an easy tool. It's beyond debate. And another time I told the patient, I remember sitting many years ago when I was a resident in Jamaica Hospital, sitting and I could see my stomach. And I was shocked. Beyond my belt. At that point, dear friend, no one has to tell me what my BMI is. I know it's a lot. I can guarantee you, I knew from the depths of my heart that it was more than 25. And so, in this raging debate of the BMI, we have to make sure that we restore sanity in the patient's mind. We have to make sure that the doctor provides patients with evidence-based information so patients can make adequate decisions in their lives. Another very important thing is what I just mentioned. Your waist size tells the true story. Regardless of what anybody tells you about your body mass index, if your belt size keeps increasing, your BMI doesn't matter. You know it that you're carrying excess visceral and abdominal fat. That is a clear indication that the BMI is accurate. Okay? So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with a few action items. Remember, number one, the BMI is just a screening tool. You cannot shoot the messenger. It is just telling a story. It is left to us to interpret the story. Are you just a regular dude with an expanding waistline, or are you NFL Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor? Your body composition itself will tell you the story. Number two, do not throw the baby with the bath water, because the BMI is still very important in predicting risk of hypertension, diabetes, sleep apnea, fatty liver disease, and the list goes on. And number three, make sure that you use the BMI to receive the appropriate care and the appropriate coverage for medication that you need from your health insurance company. Okay? On this note, we will wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next episode, because the fight never stops for adequate patient health care. This has been the Daily Brief. Medicine is not about certainty. It is about responsibility. Decisions are often made with incomplete information, but they are always made with your safety in mind. In a system that can feel rushed and fragmented, you deserve clarity, continuity, and an advocate who sees the whole picture. I am Dr. Albert Taken, your physician ally, high-level science, human-level care. I will see you at the next briefing, or I will see you in the clinic.